They are producing torrential downpours. We've had reports of 60+ mile-per-hour winds associated with these storms, and also some pretty significant hail at times. So these storms are no joke, regardless of where you are, but the most concerning locations, of course, in and around spots in Knox County, including Mount Vernon, and also large portions of the Columbus Metro in Franklin County.
So let's take a closer look for a moment at the storm that's being warned on Knox County in and around Mount Vernon. Did you have a speed on that, Madison?
Still looking at, 1 second, let me pull this back up for you.
I don't want to assume it's moving at the same speed, but it's got to be pretty close.
Yeah, I think it's also around 50 miles per hour. Still looking to confirm that.
So I'm going to put a track on this particular storm. Again, tornado warning for Franklin County until 5:45. Tornado warning for Knox County until 6:15. A track on this particular storm stretching and including Mount Vernon and just grazing areas near Utica. In this area, oops, give me a second here. I apologize for that. We're looking again at this particular warned storm right now moving east at about 50 miles an hour. This area right now will impact areas around Mount Vernon, just south of Danville, just north of Utica, Howard, Martinsburg, and Newcastle at 6:08, Howard 5:56 on Mount Vernon, less than 5 minutes away from being impacting you. Now we're going to take a look at areas in and around Franklin County as that storm continues. This line of storms, again, is very, very fast moving, Madison. We're watching, again, quickly racing through Franklin County. The storm itself is about 50 miles an hour. We saw earlier some higher gusts. And one of the reasons that we're most concerned about this, of course, downtown Columbus in a major metropolitan area, is that this particular storm does have a history of producing a tornado.
Yeah, we're going to be watching it very closely. I think it's kind of good and bad that it's moving so quickly. It means that we're going to get this storm through the area at a decent clip, but it also does indicate the strength of this storm, that we've seen it increase pretty quickly. I think we're going to have some pictures here.
Let's go out to the roads real quick and take a look at the live drive. And where was this again?
See, heading on 70.
Heading on 70.
Madison County area.
Yeah, so Madison County, as you can see from this, that was one of the first counties in our viewing area to be under the warning. That has since been moved to the east, impacting areas in and around Franklin County. And I would go so far as even to say that Dublin, Hilliard areas out toward Plain City and west out toward Madison County and London, areas that were earlier under that tornado warning, have now begun to see a little bit of relief. You're still seeing the lightning and the thunder and hearing the thunder, and of course the warning is still intact for you in Franklin County, but this storm is really focusing now and kind of cutting the county in half. Eastern half of the county is what we're most concerned about right now. New Albany, Gahanna, downtown Columbus proper, Groveport, Pickerington, and even areas to the east. If this storm has a history of producing that tornado, and that's something that we're very concerned about right now. Madison, if we could put a track on, actually showing the velocity, that's a nice, we're seeing the areas right now, we're seeing the different colors. And the reason this is important is because as we get really down into the small cell structure along that line of thunderstorms, it's areas that we see these lighter colors next to the darker colors. And there's a couple instances right now, 3 around Gahanna, Pickerington, around Lithopolis, where the storm has a tendency to show rotation. Now, this radar scan is still shooting a couple of thousand feet over our heads, and that means it's looking at the middle or lower part of the storm, but where the lower part of the storm can make that rotation down to the surface, that's where we are seeing the greatest impact. That's what happened earlier in Madison County with that confirmed tornado because of the debris that was being thrown up by the storm, and that's why we're carrying this warning for the moment into the eastern parts of Franklin County. I would not be at all surprised if the National Weather Service does extend that particular warning, and it did actually right in that second. So that one more than likely is going beyond 6 o'clock in the morning. And those communities that we just mentioned, Pataskala, Pickerington, now extending Granville, Newark, Licking County, Buckeye Lake, right along I-70, and to the south and east, North Pleasantville. Again, you're probably hearing the tornado sirens if you're just joining us this morning on 10 TV. A very disruptive start to the day. As we've been talking about for the past day and a half, the opportunity for these overnight and pre-dawn thunderstorms, especially dangerous because if you weren't already awake, you probably are hearing the sirens. Maybe if the dog is upset or maybe you've got something else going on that's just the windows are rattling. But the reason why we're on right now and going continuing coverage is because of these ongoing tornado warnings. And it's not in terms of its expanse, it's not in the entire viewing area right now, but we're looking at the moment 3 tornado warnings. One for central parts of Franklin County that goes for a few more minutes, one to the northeast near Knox County that goes until 6:15, and the newest one issued by the National Weather Service that now extends east of Franklin County. We'll put a track on that for you. Thank you very much, Madison. That includes areas around Pickerington at 5:50. We're looking at Baltimore at 6:01, Buckeye Lake at 6:08, Hopewell at 6:28, and Zanesville stretching all the way to Muskegon County if it makes it that far until 6:39 a.m. And Madison, we've been talking about, I heard on the way in, I was listening to the simulcast and just giving some very succinct advice to the audience that's just joining us and might be watching or turning on. If they weren't watching or awoken earlier by these storms, the advice for tornado safety is very simple. If you want to walk people through that for just a second.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to make sure that you're heading to the lowest level of your home. If you're in a one-story place, make sure that you put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You want to make sure that you're staying away from windows, want to stay away from doors. If that means you're just back in one corner of a room, do that. If you can cover yourself up, grab some blankets, grab a comforter, grab some pillows. I know sometimes people even throw a mattress on over top of them. Make sure that you're grabbing yourself, your family, and your pets. Make sure they're collared and leashed in case you need to keep control of them. Also, you want to make sure that your phone is charged. Any extra devices are charged and plugged into the wall right now. Even if you have 100% charge and you're watching this on your phone, make sure that it is still plugged in so that you have the most charge that you possibly can have in the event of an emergency. So again, we are tracking this storm as it races across central Ohio and right through the heart of Columbus. Right now, we're looking at arrival time as it starts to move out of the metro into areas like Pickerington by 5:50 a.m. That's 4 minutes away. 6:01 for areas like Baltimore. Buckeye Lake, we're talking 6:08 a.m. And once we get further out, we'll start to keep a closer eye as this system moves into areas with less and less energy. That's something we've been watching pretty closely as we've headed through the morning. In fact, we didn't have as many favorable conditions to see these tornadoes form this morning compared to what we were dealing with yesterday. And yet we've still had these perfect conditions come together to give us this storm. So I'm going to toss things back over to the desk for a moment while we continue to gather some more information for you.
All right, Madison and Jerry, thank you for both being on top of this right now, too. And I just want to bring up the power outages one more time because Ohio Edison is reporting 6,500 outages with customers right now. And if you go look at the map, it's literally in the wake of some of the heaviest part of the storm. Sure. All the way from the Dayton area to Madison County, it's literally a line of power outages where the thick of it has been happening.
And we do have some school delays in as well on this. We want to get those on your screen for you. We have 3 right now, but again, this is the time when districts are trying to evaluate the situation. There's Tays Valley, that's a 2-hour delay. Logan Elementary, that's Logan Elm, that's 2-hour delay. London City, that's a 2-hour delay. So that's what we have right now. Of course, as we get that information with our system, we will continue to update you. Ange?
And as we monitor social media for many of these school districts, I just got word from the Mount Vernon High School principal that because of the tornado warning up in that area, the Knox County area, they are now on a 2-hour delay as well. And that is one of 3 tornado warnings that Chief Meteorologist Jerry March was saying that we are watching right now. So even though you're not in that zone, he says, don't feel like you're safe because this storm is moving that direction.
You can see it playing out on their map over there.
Yeah.
So that's the Pataskala, Pickerington. We saw it moving through, and it's going really very fast.
And we could hear it right here at Twin River Drives. We could actually hear it sounded like sheets of rain coming across our rooftops.
And while they're regrouping and getting more information about the latest storm right now, we have brought it to you live right there in the corner of your screen so you could see the radar when they're not on air talking to us. But we're going to send it back to Doppler 10 Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz and Doppler 10 Meteorologist Madison Reich with the latest.
Yeah, I've been watching the situation evolving over the past several hours, Madison. We kind of touched base around 1 in the morning, back again. But it looks like the opportunity for overnight thunderstorms has come to fruition. Unfortunately, that's why many areas and people in and around Franklin County are hearing those sirens. And if you're not hearing the sirens, you're probably joining us on TV. We want to let you know, though, that you might not have, or somebody, a friend, family member, might not be hearing the sirens. They might not be watching 10 TV. If they are in and around the eastern parts of Franklin County, parts of Fairfield County, and Licking County, give them a call, please. Immediately send them a text message. Same thing for our friends and neighbors in central and eastern parts of Knox County. And that tornado warning goes until 6:15 a.m.
Yeah, so we're watching both of those right now. And through the morning, we've been watching this storm it picked up in speed, picked up in intensity very, very quickly. We went from 40-mile-per-hour winds moving slowly through portions of Madison County to quickly up to 50 and then almost 60-mile-per-hour speed with this storm. I want to take a bigger look here, kind of see how this storm is playing out. Much more concentrated down to the south in areas like Washington Courthouse and Circleville, regardless of where you are this morning. Obviously, if you are within that tornado warning, I want you in shelter right now in the safest place in your home and stay there until that tornado warning is canceled for your area. Everyone else, aside from areas like Bell Fountain and Marysville and Urbana, where we've already started to see those conditions improve and the storm has moved right on out. Everyone else, we've got still strong showers, storms, heavy rain, winds over 60 miles per hour at times with this storm. Roadways are going to be messy. If you can delay leaving this morning, heading to the office, or just stay home for the time being, please do so because it is going to be messy out there. We're watching another tornado warning out there just down towards the south. Going to be keeping a closer eye on this one as well. I'm going to go back here to your warnings and take a bigger picture here. I think we've got a bit of a delay. Jerry?
Yeah, and Madison, we're looking at the opportunity again for both of those tornado warnings expiring at different times. But we just want to let you know that this is among a longer line of tornadic or thunderstorms, and some of which are producing tornadoes. It's not a situation where we're seeing discrete or individual supercells. This is happening overnight, and different parts of that thunderstorm line have been activating and spinning, and that's why we're seeing those disparate or those separate tornado warnings on those different parts of the thunderstorm. I want to draw our attention to right now. You can see, if we stop for just a second, central and western parts of Franklin County, you are in the clear. Eastern parts of Franklin County, not so much. We're going to focus right now on the southern part of that storm. And where you see this gray working in, that's an indication of a fifth type of precipitation, hail, that has been also coming down as part of the damaging impacts of these storms. Around Lithopolis and Pickerington, this particular structure of the storm right now, as the radar updates live on the air, is showing something that's very unsettling. And we've been talking about, and I heard Madison starting at about 4 o'clock this morning to 4:30, that it's not just the intensity of the storm, but it's the particular parts of the storm that are rotating, and this southern part of this line has shown indications of doing that. So Pickerington, Lithopolis, right now, if you're not seeking shelter, please do. Areas to the east of that, including Buckeye Lake, Baltimore, and then we're eventually working our way out of Fairfield County. Baltimore, 21 minutes, Thurston in 27 minutes, Millersport in 30 minutes, and you've got 33 minutes in East Millersport to take advance notice and warning of these particular cells. And we talked about it before, we'll mention it again, and Madison did a nice job of talking about things you might want to take with you, including your pets. Shoes. If you are happy to take shelter in a lowest floor or an interior room and the structure you're in might be damaged, you might not be able to get out safely. So grab the shoes, grab the kids, grab the dogs, head to the lowest floor that you possibly can, and cats, and also keep as many walls between you and the outside as possible. It's those kind of very simple pieces of advice that are going to enable you to keep you and your family safe in this situation. And just to break it down for you again, we're looking at multiple tornado warnings in the pre-dawn hours of this Wednesday, most notably the one moving out of Franklin County right now. Previously had an impact and activated the tornado sirens in and around Franklin County and Columbus, but we're paying particular attention right now to this southern part of the cell as that continues to move off toward the east, and also a tornado warning Madison for Knox County until 6:15 a.m.
Yeah, we've been watching those both very closely, and it looks like with a new update here, we've got both of those being discontinued by 6:15 a.m. Now, we will not be done entirely with our threat for storms until we get into 6:30, 7 o'clock. At that point, we should start to see things clear up with a couple showers, maybe a few more rumbles of thunder continuing until 8 a.m. this morning. So until then, we are still watching the potential. So here's a look again, one more time. If you are waking up and just now joining us, we have 2 tornado warnings in effect within central Ohio. One in Knox County. This is radar indicated. This continues until 6:15 a.m. If you are within that red box, please seek shelter. Now, down to the south, and still in portions of the metro, it looks like we're actually seeing a change in direction here. This storm, I think, starting to make its way more towards the northeast. So we're going to see another tornado warning just issued. This one continues for Licking County until 6:45 a.m. Right now, we do still have the tornado warning in effect for portions of Franklin County, Fairfield County, and Licking County until 6:15 a.m. Right now, everything is radar indicated. Earlier this morning, this same portion of the storm, this same chunk north to south, stretching from Mount Vernon down to Lancaster, this did in fact produce a verified tornado that was in London and portions of Madison County. We also saw indications of a tornado on the ground for portions of Springfield, just south of I-70, early this morning. So over the past hour, we've seen this storm really race across the area. Pickup in speed started at 40 miles per hour, up to 55 miles per hour as it moved through the metro. Now looking at speeds of around 50 miles per hour for that directional speed, but we're seeing gusts inside the storm much stronger than that. I'm going to give you a better view here. So that flashing, when you see that with our polygons, that means that we're getting an update. So they're changing the shape of the polygon. They're giving us a new warning. So when you see that flashing, it's just another indicator of what we've got headed our way. So I'm going to toss things over to the anchors here for a second. Give us another look while we gather some more information for you.
Madison, thank you. We have a number of school delays to get to you, so we have a giant list, and so let's just get through that.
It seems like it jumped in the last 20 minutes,
Yes.
and that's because a lot of school superintendents just said we're not taking any chances with the kids. Starting with Pickerington Local Schools, that's one of the newest that just issued a 2-hour delay. Same with Mount Vernon, London, and Logan Elm.
We also have Bloom Carroll, Buckeye Valley, Clark, Shawnee Local Schools, Clear Fork Valley Local Schools.
Groveport Madison is now added to that list too.
Yes.
London City Schools was under that as well too. I know we just are getting new information from the National Weather Service out of Wilmington, Ohio, and our meteorologists might want to listen to this as well, that the tornado warning now includes Newark, Heath, and Granville, Ohio. That's until 6:45 a.m.
All right, we do want to make sure that we're covering some of these school districts as well. Jefferson Local Schools, Logan Elm Local Schools, London City Schools. We did see Big Walnut on there too, some really major schools. You can go to our website, 10tv.com. We have it there as well. So we've got you covered on that.
Well, certainly we know that the roads are really tricky out there, and let's get over to Amy Steigerwald right now. She's been watching all of the ODOT cameras. Very wet on the roads, but also you're seeing some closures now.
Yeah, we are definitely tracking a busy commute for you if you're in one of those safe zones, but if not, we're still seeing a lot of problems out there. That bottom right-hand camera, you can see it shaking. That is over on the east side, right at I-70, where it meets 256. You can kind of see those flashing lights in the distance, and that is because we do have a crash that multiple crews are on the scene of. This is on I-70 eastbound, right at 256. Right now, there is a crash there that has that ramp slightly shut down. Again, that is the ramp from 256 to I-70 eastbound, and lane closures on I-70 eastbound. We're also watching a closure that just popped up. I'm going to pull up this map for you if you can't quite see it. That stretch of 40 that you see right there, that is on the far west side, kind of just near the West Jefferson area. Right now, 40 is completely closed, and that is right at State Route 56, just beyond right at 56, just beyond 40 West, because of debris actually that's on the roadway. So we're seeing that debris, we don't have a camera view, but it's right through this stretch of 40. Again, that is over on the west side, probably because that's where we saw some of those winds start to hit earlier this morning. Don't have a view again of that debris, but you should not be traveling out there anyways. ODOT flagging that area as completely shut down this morning. So again, couple of trouble spots out there that we are keeping a close eye on and seeing closures actually be put in place for. We're going to watch those and give you an update in just a few minutes. I'm going to send things back to you guys at the desk.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
So here is an updated list of our school delays right here. We know Newark City Schools just added to this long list of school delays. You could also see them scrolling right now at the bottom of your screen. We do know about 5,500 customers are without power right now. So if you do not have power, or you're in one of those areas where you had to step away from your television to maybe get to a safe place during this tornado warning, we are streaming live right now on 10tv.com. You could also get the free 10TV News app. That's where you could see live coverage of this storm right now. Let's check in with our Doppler 10 team one more time. We're going to send it over to Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz with the latest.
Yeah, good morning.
Watching the severe weather developing several states away overnight, and a very unsettling morning for you as those tornado sirens in much of central Ohio are providing your alarm clock. We're watching 3 separate tornado warnings right now as we head up on 6 o'clock. Tornado warning Knox County until 6:15, Licking County until 6:45, and as Madison mentioned just a few moments ago, this threat is going to extend at least through sunrise as this storm line races to the east. Fairfield, Licking County, that tornado warning goes until 6:15 a.m. Want to also mention that areas to the west of this line, including Columbus and the western parts of Franklin County, Delaware County, and to the south around Pickaway County, you are in the clear. So it's important to let you know when you're out of harm's way as tracking the areas that are in harm's way. So we're going to take a detailed look. Big picture right now is showing some very concerning areas around the storm structure, Madison. We're looking at several areas. It's not just a straight line, but kind of an arc or a bow. And when that happens, that's just an indication that the storms along that particular line are evolving and changing. And sometimes as that evolution occurs, those storms can start to spin. And when that spin in the middle part of the clouds in the atmosphere is able to work its way down to the ground, that's when we get the tornado. That was the case earlier in parts of Madison County and off toward the west in Champaign and Clark County, and that's what we're dealing with right now. So a track on the northern most segment right there, Tiverton at 6:10, Newcastle 6:13, Kilbuck 6:30, Helmick at 6:39, and Keene at 6:51. That again is the northernmost tornado warning. Exiting Mount Vernon, Utica, you should be in the clear shortly, but areas to the east of that, over toward Knox County, heading toward Coshocton County possibly, are under the threat of that storm. So if we can take a look then at the next part of this segment, south of that tornado warning, this one again, south of Utica, parts of Licking County. Again, a very unusual, not unusual, but a very concerning structure of this particular storm cell as its indication along that line. Granville, Newark over toward Dresden, areas out 161, Newark at 608. Hickman at 6:18, Grayshot at 6:32, Hopewell 6:37, and Zanesville at 6:56 a.m. If you are in Licking County, central and eastern parts of the county, please take shelter. Follow those very simple guidelines that we've all been mentioning this morning. Put as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible. Kids, pets, get them to a safe place. If you have a basement, that's the best location. If you don't, an interior room like a bathroom or a closet is a close second. And third on this line of storms, down to the south. South of 70 again, you see this curling structure of the particular storm. This one east of Pickerington right now, but impacting Pleasantville and just moving through Lancaster in Fairfield County. These storms racing east at about 50 miles an hour. So Amanda at 6:06, Somerset 6:19, New Lexington, Perry County at 6:36, and Pike at 6:38. So that's a tour along these individual segments. Madison, you've been tracking these storms for the past couple of hours, noticing a pretty similar structure, I imagine, 2 or 3 hours ago when they were out of viewing area. What are some of the similarities or differences that you're seeing right now with these storms compared to what you saw just about an hour ago?
So right now, one of the most interesting things is we're getting this kind of stretching with the storms. We're starting to see that bowing as you were talking about. So what we're watching is a lot of these storms becoming a lot narrower, not quite as wide as they were initially. And as that stretching is happening, we're getting more of these little inflow areas. So you're kind of seeing this here, that almost notch trying to form up near Granville. We're watching that one very closely. We're also watching those areas, of course, as we look towards Baltimore. So I want to take you again, those areas where we're seeing the curvature is kind of concerning. It's what we've been watching throughout the morning, and it's what we're now continuing to see. So the storms getting longer, getting a little narrower, but still holding on to a lot of speed. We're still seeing these move at around 50 miles per hour. This morning we started around a 40 mile per hour speed, so they were moving at a decent clip, but slower than the storms that we had seen overnight, which were moving around 60 miles per hour. Now we've watched that change once again, moving back up to 50, almost 55 miles per hour, and then back to around 50. So again, we have multiple tornado warnings in effect. It looks like we've just had another one issued down to the south. I'm going to toss things over to Jerry. Jerry, what are you seeing? Do we have any information for this storm?
So this newest warning, a tornado warning until 6:30, Morgan and Perry County. These are radar indicated, but radar indicated, again, we talked about the radar as hitting into the middle and the lower parts of the storm, and where that's seeing rotation, that's when the National Weather Service is triggering those warnings. Same kind of situation which earlier provided that confirmed tornado to our west and parts of London and parts of Madison County and to the west. But we're looking again, 4 distinct tornado warnings right now, north to south. Knox County till 6:15, Licking County till 6:45, Fairfield and Licking County, that one at Western Edge till 6:15, and Morgan and Perry County until 6:30. So those are a quick look at the latest tornado warnings that are in effect. And that line of storms we talked about, the structure is very concerning. The storm has been averaging about 50 miles an hour. So we're going to take a quick, long look at this particular line of storms, mentioning some counties and communities which may not have been mentioned earlier, but still it's very concerning as we go through the next 30 minutes in some locations that we are most particularly concerned about. Newark at 6:10. Somerset 6:17, Hopewell at 6:23, and Zanesville now at 6:33. That timeline in Zanesville being moved up as these storms are apparently picking up a little bit of speed. So keep that in mind if you're along those lines of the storms. That's why we're going wall-to-wall coverage this morning on Wake Up C-Bus with the opportunity to keep you and your family safe. If you know somebody that is in that line of storms or those communities that we just mentioned, Knox County over toward soon-to-be Coshocton County, Eastern Licking County, Muskegon County, Perry County, and down toward Fairfield County, call them. If they're not watching 10 TV, they might not know what's going on. They might not have a tornado siren, and even then, they might not hear it if they're inside. Have them get to shelter immediately, as these storms have a history of producing some tornadoes and some damage. We also heard from Amy Steigerwald a few moments ago, can't confirm it was a tornado, but there is debris on some roadways that is causing some impact on your travel this morning. So again, even if we're not looking at an exact hit or direct hit by a tornado, we're still looking at some very damaging winds. Right now, the area that we're most concerned about should be just west of Granville. Thanks, Madison, for pointing that out. If you wanted to go into the chroma key, I'll drive this and we'll do a little more detailed look at this particular situation. And
Yeah,
that
so
was just in and around Granville.
Yeah, so we just received some indicators that areas just to the south of Alexandria and into portions of Granville are where the core of that rotation is currently sitting. So we're going to be talking about areas just in and around here, Granville, just outside of Newark as well, watching that potential for rotation. This is not a confirmed tornado on the ground. This is simply a area of rotation that we're seeing on radar that could potentially be causing some issues. So we've got strong winds. We've got this rotation. We still have this tornado warning in effect for the next 15 and even into 20 minutes for most spots. So make sure that you are headed to your safe spot. Remember, that's going to be the lowest level of your home. If you live in an apartment or you live on a one-story, make sure that you put as many walls, doors, as much as you can between you and the outside. That may mean that you're in a bedroom and you're back in the farthest corner that you can get into. Cover yourself up, blankets, put on long sleeves, put on a sweatshirt. Make sure you've got your legs covered too. Pants going to be very helpful. Same story once we start talking about shoes. Put shoes on just in case of a worst case scenario so that your feet are covered. There's also potential, grab a bike helmet. Put that on, especially when you're heading to shelter within those areas. So again, we've been tracking this for quite a while now, Jerry, looking at potential for these storms to be impacting areas in Newark by 6:11, 6:23, Black Run, 6:26, headed toward Freesburg, and still watching this very tight area of rotation, this couplet that we've been watching start to move towards the east. Now, do we have any more information on the speed of this storm? I know most of them have been moving around 50 to 55 miles per hour. I would assume this one is similar.
Yeah, they've all been kind of congealing along that particular line. And I've talked about the areas within that line that have indicated some rotation. And this one moving east at 47 knots, that's about 51 miles an hour. So yeah, the speed has been about the same from these particular cells as they move along the line. Most notably, we're looking at a couple of areas along this line, multiple tornado warnings this morning. If you're just joining us, that's why we're doing extended coverage this morning on Wake Up C-Bus because of the severe weather threat, which has a history west of Franklin County and Columbus are producing tornadoes, and that's why we are going in wall-to-wall coverage here this morning. So please keep that in mind. Keep you and your family safe. We're doing the best we can to keep you ahead of the particular storm. Quick look right now and noticing some areas that are no longer under the threat, and then we'll get to the ones in a moment that are. Delaware, Marysville, Columbus, Lockbourne, down toward Grove City, Groveport, Mount Sterling, London, and down toward Jeffersonville and Washington Courthouse. You are in the clear for the moment from the tornadic threat and the severe weather, and I think that will continue for at least the next hour or two. Areas to the east of that where we're seeing the significant areas of precipitation, hail, damaging wind gusts and those tornado warnings, those areas are where we're most concerned about. So let's just take off the radar for a second and show locations that are under those tornado warnings. Much of the area in yellow, that's still a tornado watch. That goes until mid-morning. The area around tornado warning right now is areas eastern parts of Knox County, Licking County, northern Fairfield County, and northern Perry County. Madison?
And I think if we zoom out on that watch, we've actually had some of it trimmed back, which is good news. We love to see that. So another indication of calming conditions. And I do want to go back and say, so over the past couple of hours, we've seen these storms start to pick up. But the areas where we were most likely to see that tornadic activity, where we had the largest amount of confirmation, were areas in Springfield earlier this morning and in London. That's where we saw potential debris. And past that point, we've been watching these storms so very closely because of that history with this storm. And then also those notches, those areas where it starts to look a little wiggly and wavy. That's where we've got wind and that air moving in at a different direction than the wind within the storm. So Jerry's kind of highlighting here there a couple of those spots. We will continue to watch those the closest because that's where we're seeing those highest areas of rotation.
And even though we're looking at countywide warnings, Madison, and the threat for severe weather is extensive, especially east of Columbus again, stretching from Millersburg, eastern parts of Knox County right now, down around central parts of Licking County and Newark, and then further off toward the south. It's a couple of those particular areas or notches along that line which are causing even more concern. So we're looking at countywide warnings, but we're also looking at the opportunity within that line of storms for some of the smaller pockets to produce the worst weather. So we're going to continue to track this storm. We're going to toss it back to the anchors for a moment and be right back here with the latest warnings and an update on the track of these storms.
Jerry, thank you for that. We want to get you some updated information on school closures. If we can go ahead and put that list on the screen. They've been coming in. As you can see there on your screen there, we have Delaware City Schools, Worthington Schools, Fairfield Union Local. These are on 2-hour delays. 2-hour delays. Granville EVSD, Jefferson Local, Olentangy Local. Again, these are 2-hour delays coming in as this weather situation plays itself out.
And this is only part of the list right now. The rest of it is scrolling right there at the bottom of your screen. A lot of this is due to the severe storms that are coming through the area. Some of it has to do with the power outages we're seeing too. So we saw a big increase in power outages with AEP Ohio. That went from 0 to 2,100 just in the last couple minutes here. And we continue to track that as well. We're also following the latest road conditions. Let's send it over to Amy Steigerwald.
Yeah, we are definitely starting to see things pick up out there. A lot of problems because of this tornado situation. US 40 between 56 and 38 right now. This is on the west side, completely shut down in both directions. You can see that flagged right there. This is because of debris on the roadways that ODOT has flagged. So keep that in mind. Also an intense situation we are seeing up in the New Albany area. Take a look in that upper left-hand corner of your screen. That is flooding in that tunnel from that I-270 to 161 area. As you kind of, you can see that water that is there and those cars kind of moving to the right as they approach. As a reminder, do not drive through very intense flooding situations. It appears that the right lanes are okay over there and that cars are able to get by, but definitely a sticky situation. Also, upper right-hand corner of your screen, that is somewhat near the Gahanna area, I-270, those southbound lanes just barely moving right now. That's the camera view just near Easton. We're also still watching a crash over on the far east side on I-70 at 256. So a lot of situations we are tracking at this point. We're going to keep track of this and we'll update you in just a few minutes. I'm going to send things back to you guys at the desk.
All right, Amy, thank you. In that area, that tunnel right there at 270, 161, kind of the Westerville area. We just got word that Westerville City Schools also now on a 2-hour delay. So joining the more than 24 that we've seen in the last 45 minutes, really, that just kind of jumped on that safety bandwagon, so to speak, and just said, kids, parents, stay home until we can kind of get through this tornado situation.
Those 2-hour delays, Amy talking about and showing us that water. Remember that phrase, turn around, don't drown.
Yes.
Just park. Put your hazards on until we can get through this.
So we're seeing a lot of factors in the storm too. We're seeing heavy rain, we're seeing some lightning as well, obviously some observed tornadoes. So let's send it back to our Doppler 10 team that's been tracking this. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz.
So we're going to look at a broader perspective for a moment and then break it down for you. County by county and storm by storm. Tornado watch was issued earlier, and that goes through mid-morning for the counties shaded in yellow. We're looking at the most immediate threat, the counties shaded in red. And we talked about, even though these areas, these red shaded polygons or boxes, are covering a large area, the impact of a tornado is much smaller, but we're still over warning, if you will, just to make sure that we capture everybody that might be under the impact or the influence of these storms. East of Mount Vernon, be on guard. Western parts of Coshocton County, would not be surprised if that is extended. Same thing with Muskingum County, central and eastern parts of Licking County, including Newark and Granville. Then to the south, we're looking at east of Canal Winchester, north of Lancaster, Thornville, east of Buckeye Lake, and down toward New Lexington and Perry County. But again, these storms, these warnings have a history of just cascading forward, and I would not be surprised if that threat continues over the next 30 to 60 minutes. And these warnings go from 6:15 in some locations to beyond 6:30 in others. So let's take a closer look and break that down. Then there's Morgan and Perry until 6:30, Fairfield and Licking 6:15. The eastern part of Licking County, and that has been reissued or extended till 6:45 a.m. And then Knox County, that one, and carving out the back end of the warning, but focusing on the eastern part right now, that goes for another 50 or another couple of minutes. I would not be surprised if that is extended. So Madison, if we can take a look then, transition over the radar scan and give people an idea of what they're looking at. And emphasizing again, when I came about an hour ago, Columbus was right in the thick of things. Now that risk is quickly shifting off toward the east. We're looking at these areas in particular where there's not just a line, but we're looking at arcs or bows in this larger line. And that's an indication where we see these notches or these differences that the tornadoes are likely to form because of the difference in the winds in these particular spots. We can also use other tools, and that warning for Knox County has just been taken down and has not been extended east at this time. That is good news. That doesn't mean that the threat is over. Gusty winds, of course, some very heavy rain and downpours, some lightning and, of course, thunder with that, and the possibility of some hail. But we're looking again at this bowing edge, or this leading edge right now, which is most concerning. That's moving east at about 50 miles an hour. So New Lexington, and especially areas north of New Lexington, until 6:25 a.m. Zanesville 6:27, New Concord 6:50, Cambridge about 7:01, and then Caldwell at 7:14. Areas in and around those, even if I didn't mention your particular location, if you're in and around those areas or within the cone or this area that we're watching right now, they encourage you, please, to take shelter, take this warning seriously. As these storms, just a little more than an hour ago, have a history of producing tornadoes, meaning that this spin has reached the ground and caused some debris, and we saw that earlier on the radar scans and has been confirmed by the National Weather Service. So we're looking again at this particular line, and then further off toward the south, we're still looking again, exiting Fairfield County, but now focusing on central northern parts of areas around Perry County. That particular storm right now is one we're watching very carefully. So if there's a little bit of good news, Madison, is that the multiple tornado warnings, numerous 4 or 5, almost 6 at once, that's now been pared down to just 2. We're looking at areas to the west of those tornado warnings, including Columbus, Delaware, Mount Vernon, Newark. You're almost in the clear. London, Washington Courthouse. Again, those are areas that were recently under the threat of severe weather. Now we are seeing things settling down from the severe weather threat. You're not totally out of the woods from a crazy weather day, but the severe weather threat is moving away. Also looking to the south just momentarily, this line stretches Lancaster down toward Pickaway County and just entering northwestern parts of Ross County. That area clearing Fayette County, but while there are no warnings on this particular line, it still is going to be a very unsettling morning for you in those counties and communities. Wind gusts, the lightning and the downpours are going to cause some problems, but the area that we're watching most closely right now, after we get this big look at the storm system, are the areas around, and we just got, I think, an update, Madison. If you can bring us up to speed there with that indicator of an updated or a new tornado warning, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we're going to pop back over here, take a look at those active warnings. So right now we're going to see this continued. It looks like they've changed the shape a little bit here, tightened things up where we're concerned about that rotation. This continues until 6:30 a.m. and is for Morgan and Perry counties. I want to take a closer look at that warning. We've had these storms moving pretty quickly at least 50 miles per hour. Again, radar indicated. That's going to be the big term. We've talked about it all morning. It means we've got the rotation in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We're seeing those areas where we've got the air moving in different directions with these storms, and that is going to help that rotation really sink in. So again, Perry County, portions of there, even heading north into Granville and Newark, Buckeye Lake, still watching those notches. That's going to be the big thing. I want to walk over and I'm going to point those out to you, because again, those are the spots where we do have the highest potential. So right now we've been watching that pretty closely. So in and around Newark here, watching a little bit of this notch. It is where we've seen some pretty large rotation. And then the notch here in portions of Perry County looking a little bit different. It's a lot broader. Over the past 30, 45 minutes, in fact, we've seen a little bit of a weakening of some of that rotation. All good news still. If you are within any of these areas, I want you to make sure you're taking this seriously. Head to your safe place. Make sure you take your family, and grab your four-legged friends as well. And make sure they are collared and leashed. If you have cats or anything else, crates are your best friend. You want to make sure that you can maintain control in a worst-case scenario. So this is what we're looking at for timing as we go through. Hopewell, 6:23, Frazeysburg, 6:25, an arrival in Zanesville by 6:34, Pleasant Grove by 6:37, and Blue Rock by 6:43. So the system still moving due east at least 50 miles per hour. Again, aside from this storm, just these particular areas of the storm that have already had a history of producing a tornado, we're still looking at hail. We're still looking at heavy rain. We're still looking at very strong winds. We've seen gusts over 60 miles per hour associated with this storm. There are now roads with debris from these storms. So please, if you can take some time, stay home, delay heading out this morning. Some areas, of course, are looking much better, but if you're heading east, be prepared. This is what's still out there. If you can wait, give it another hour at least, conditions will be so much better, I promise. So again, we've got another track here headed towards Hopewell by 6:24, Dillon Falls 6:30, Zanesville 6:35, Pleasant Grove 6:37, and Bridgeville 6:42. And this is another, again, that same area of rotation looking a little different. Starting to break up a little bit here as we head through a few more scans of the radar. Still a lot of dark colors though popping up with this rain, so a lot of intensity just right in this one spot here. Headed towards Gratiot, similar story, a lot of intensity in that one portion of the storm. We're getting some sleet, we're getting some hail within these warnings as well. These are going to be these whitish gray areas that you're looking at popping up even towards Somerset. We're seeing those just south of Pleasantville. I'm going to step back here for a second, give you another storm track. We're talking Junction City as we head into 6:24, Zanesville 6:31, Crooksville 6:32, Blue Rock 6:42, and Rich Hill 6:47. So Jerry, I don't know if we have any more updates on these. Again, still watching those notches very quickly. Actually, I think we're going to toss things back over to the desk to give you an updated look at how things are looking outside.
All right, we did have our photographer out, Tim Flaherty, as you know, looking at the roads. We have a report that he is at a scene where there is some damage. Can we go out to him now? All right, so we are looking at where Tim is at this time.
This is Hilliard-Rome Road, and we have heard that police have shut down this area because of some down power lines too. So we're zooming in as close as we can to the scene. And this is a story across many parts. It looks like some of the trees cracked off there and might be leaning up against the home here too. And the down lines and the fallen trees are responsible for a lot of outages right now. We have AP Ohio has 4,600. That's basically doubled in the last 15 minutes, and First Energy now reporting 5,400. As you can see, some of the storm damage that this quick-moving storm has left behind.
We're also getting reports as we continue to look at what's happening here on Hilliard-Rome Road that there is some damage in Grove City, in the Galloway area. A lot of trees that have fallen on top of rooftops. Also more damage down, in the Jefferson Township area. So that's Black Lake by Taylor Station Road, just east of the airport. Interesting to know, as that tornado warning came through Franklin County, John Glenn Columbus International Airport actually issued a shelter in place. They told travelers, do not come to the airport, check with your airline. They lifted that about 10 minutes ago. We don't see that very often.
No, we don't.
At the airport, when they actually tell people shelter in place, listen for instructions on where to go at the airport.
So a lot of people under a tornado warning right now as that storm continues to move through the eastern part of central Ohio. And that was a scene seen left behind from the storm that's caused a lot of power outages and some damage as well.
And we have some new numbers on those power outages. AEP Ohio, just over 4,600 there, and First Energy, 5,419 to be specific, because when you don't have your power, you do want to know the exact numbers.
And we are working to talk with authorities from Franklin County, the Emergency Management Agency. Obviously, they're very busy right now. Madison County Sheriff said, call me back in 10 minutes. So clearly, they're dealing with a lot out there. And we're still seeing some more school delays starting to roll in here as we see this tornado system start to make its way east of Franklin County.
All right, we do want to get back to our experts here. Chief Meteorologist Jerry March standing by.
And this situation evolving very quickly, talking minutes, and when they really meet in a difference in terms of you being able to get to safety. The one thing that we're watching right now, and this is not your normal radar scan, but it's something that we're going to share with you quickly. Then we'll get back to what you're normally used to seeing. This is an area that we're seeing where there's rotation inside the thunderstorm. So a few thousand feet up, the storm is starting to spin. That's an indication where you see these different colors right next to each other. That counterclockwise circulation in the cloud, when and if it can work its way down to the ground, that's when we see what we call a spin up or a spin down. That's when we get the tornado. And that's what happened earlier, and we're in the light of day. Please do not go outside and send us pictures or look for damage until after sunrise, and let the professionals do it then. But what we're looking at right now is this area where those two colors are very different and next to each other. That's causing some rotation in the cloud. That's why there's a tornado warning for the southeastern parts of Perry County. Areas in the western parts of the county haven't officially been taken down, but we're going to go back to the regular radar mode, something you're probably more familiar with, and then we're going to put a track on that particular storm. Latest indication moving between 50 and 55 miles an hour. And in fact, some locations, now you see the orange shading, we'll get to that in a moment, but the main area looking at right now, just in central parts of Perry County, as that storm begins to move to the east at about 50 to 55 miles an hour. Indications then areas around New Lexington, 628, which is very, very soon, 641 in Bearfield, 654 in Cumberland, 707 in Caldwell, and 716 in Enoch. Again, we're looking at multiple warnings. This particular warning right now, the tornado warning, is where we're pacing most of our attention, but we're also looking at a severe thunderstorm warning right now that has been issued for Muskingum County. Also want to point out briefly areas to the west. We've talked about the severe threat moving through parts of Knox County, parts of Licking County, parts of Fairfield County, parts of Pickaway County and Franklin County. Those areas I just mentioned are in the clear. It might be some rain and some lightning, but the threat for tornadoes or severe weather has quickly diminished. So we're still going to see some active weather during the course of the morning. But at this time, the only two warnings that I see out right now are the tornado warning in Perry County, stretching over just north of McConnellsville, and that severe thunderstorm warning in Muskingum County in and around Zanesville. Just emphasizing again, you're probably watching us waking up to the tornado sirens, maybe the lightning and the thunder, or some debris flying around depending on where you're at, but we're keeping an eye on the situation and letting you know when it's safe to go out, and then also areas where it's not safe right now. Just kind of buys your time. Tune in to Wake Up C-Bus, and we'll take you through the storm from Coshocton, Zanesville, down toward Somerset, Lancaster, Circleville, and soon to be in Chillicothe and Piketon. Those areas and areas southeast of those that I just mentioned are still under the threat for some severe weather. It might not be a tornado, but it still can produce some damage in terms of wind, hail, some significant rain, and of course lightning and thunder. So Madison Reich has been tracking this for the past several hours, going back to about midnight tonight actually. Madison, you've watched the evolution of this line as it raced from west to east very quickly. We're not seeing a whole lot right now in the northern parts of the viewing area, but this southern edge, and especially the eastern part of that, is still pretty active.
Jerry, you read my mind. That was exactly where I was headed next. So we're starting to see some change within the system, and I'm liking the change that we're seeing. So first of all, those storms off towards the north, areas like Coshocton, Zanesville, Cambridge, Newark, starting to see a little weakening. We still have that tornado warning in effect. I want to take you back to your warnings though, because we've got some changes here. Instead of extending the tornado warning, it looks like we're going to see them let it go into a thunderstorm warning for areas of Muskingum County. But we still do have that Morgan and Perry tornado warning until 6:30. That's 3 more minutes. Just stay with us for that time. Stay in your shelter until we see this expire. At the same time, I want to show you our tornado watch. It's still looking a little bit different than it was as we woke up and started this morning right around 4:30. a lot of areas have been taken out of this, and I think over the next 20-30 minutes we'll see quite a few more also removed from this. I want to take a bigger look though, because as we moved through this morning, in fact, we saw a lot of areas put in the tornado watch that were not initially in that tornado watch. Now, most of the concern is going to start to shift towards the south, and that's going to be good for us. We're getting a lot of warnings on the southern edge of the storm into portions of Kentucky. You can see in those areas there within the orange. All of those areas of yellow are spots that are still within that tornado watch. So as this storm is diving to the south, it's consumed most of the energy that is still hanging around central Ohio. Now it's going to go to that next energy source, which is where we still have a lot of humidity and a lot of warmth down to those areas in southern Ohio and in Kentucky. So we're getting still that that lengthening, that narrowing of the band of storms. But the other thing I want to point out too, we're not getting as many areas of bowing. It's not arching as we have those winds pushing in from behind. So we still have a little bit of that here. Again, these are the areas of concern where we still have those warnings. But these lines here starting to dive south, and they're holding pretty straight for now. So looking much, much better than what we've been dealing with. We're going to go ahead and toss things over to Amy Steigerwald now to get a look at those roadways and an update of how things are playing out.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing things get pretty active. Again, if you're just joining us, we are watching a couple spots where we have road closures because of debris and other flooding on the roadways. This one on the far west side, this is on US 40 right between 56 and 38, State Route 56 and 38. You can see both directions shut down right now. ODOT has this flagged as debris on the roadways, so potentially some of the remnants of this morning's storm. Swinging things now to our live looks cameras. Take a look in that upper left-hand camera. Take a look where that car is currently driving. Probably should not be driving through that section right there. This is the tunnel at the ramp from 161 near 270 right now. That is restricted. I would not drive through there if I were you. Again, that is the ramp from 161 westbound to I-270 southbound. Again, that upper left-hand camera, you can see it appears those cars in the right-hand lanes are able to move through safely. They still have that ramp open, but just be mindful that there is some intense flooding over there in that tunnel. Also, we are still watching crews kind of upper corner over here on I-270. This is in those southbound lanes just beyond Easton Way, clearing a crash over there. And over on the far east side this morning, I-70 at 256, we were watching a crash over on that ramp, which appears to have cleared, thankfully. But again, seeing a lot of problems pop up, especially as that storm makes its way out. We're starting to see what's left of it. This is what's left. You can see that flooding right over there. Again, that is that ramp over near the Westerville area this morning. We're going to continue to keep an eye on things, let you know if any other trouble spots do pop up. But for now, I'm going to send things back to you guys at the desk.
And make sure if you're driving over there 270 through that tunnel that you're polite, because it looks like one lane is getting through. People do tend to try to bottleneck over there.
Yep.
So you can see that. That's really
Sure
critical
do.
to merge.
Well, we do know that we have our photographer, Tim Flaherty. He's been driving around through Madison County and the western part of Franklin County, kind of showing us the road situation. He was just moments ago in Hilliard.
So let's check in with him. Tim, I believe you are on the line with us right now. So tell us where you are, and we're seeing some police there. What else are you seeing?
Hey guys, I'm on Hilliard Rome Road, just north of Roberts. We reported earlier that both lanes were shut down. They're now open, and I actually talked to the family of this house, and they were devastated. They didn't want to go on TV, but they said, I talked to the wife, and this morning when she heard the sirens go off, she immediately looked out the window and saw a tornado, got her family and her dogs down into the basement. Everybody is okay, and she tells me the house is totally destroyed, and she was in tears. And it's heartbreaking because her sister lives next door, and I can tell you, let me try and swing around here, you can see effects of high winds right here. That's a road sign. That's bent in half. Sorry about the shaky camera work,
No worries.
but there's also debris down here as well. But as you can see, this wind sheared off all these trees and then landed on a pickup truck, and it looks like a little garage area. But luckily, everybody's okay.
Tim,
And they heeded the warning and they got to safety.
Tim, did she describe to you at all, what she heard in just the moments maybe beforehand? A lot of people probably woke up to those sirens and maybe didn't have enough time to find that shelter they needed.
Well, the only thing she could tell me was she saw the tornado, what she called a tornado, and that if you come to this area, you'll see it only hit their house.
Wow.
The houses next door may have some minor damage. I haven't seen up on the roof here yet. Let me take a look. While you're looking, maybe some minor roof damage, but their house is the only one that got hit.
And Tim,
off of Hilliard Run Road.
You said that the homeowners told you that the house is destroyed. You mentioned that a garage or a garage port and a car is destroyed. Did they say anything about the interior?
Yeah.
Because we saw trees land on top of it. What's the interior like?
No, on these scenes like this, I really didn't want to push them.
Sure.
She was crying. She said she lost everything.
Oh, no.
You have to be delicate in these situations. They were getting into a family pickup truck, going to safety, but she was crying, and it's devastating. But the good news is, if there's anything out of this, and we know it, nobody was injured, and they did what they had to do when they heard the sirens.
That is the encouraging part of this, Tim. Well, we certainly are appreciative of your ability to get that coverage, and of course our thoughts are with that family as they get through this situation, but I do think there'll probably be some similar stories, so we always want to hear that people have been able to take cover.
And this is a situation that is unfolding across all of Central Ohio right now. A lot of people are going down to their basements or their safe place, and it's continuing to move out east. So let's check in with our Deflet 10 meteorologist team with the latest on the track of this.
Yes, we've been watching the evolution of the storm over the past several hours, and at the last minute, I can tell you that there are no active tornado warnings in Central Ohio. And if it sounds like I'm breathing a sigh of relief, it's because I am. We've been tracking these storms in the worst possible time overnight into the wee hours of the morning, when many of you have been disrupted from sleep by the sirens or by the debris or by the thunderstorms, by the hail, by the wind. I want to draw your attention to two things. One, we're looking off toward the east. We're still tracking some severe weather, but again, not a tornado warning. This area, again, a severe thunderstorm warning in and around Muskegum that goes on for another 20 to 30 minutes. So that area, again, still a concern, but then racing east now at about 60 miles an hour. Further off toward the west, we're going to expand this for just a second. We're looking at areas in and around Central Ohio. We called clear for Delaware, Columbus, London, Circleville from the tornadic threat, but I wanted to let you know that we're not out of the woods. Further off toward the west, there are still more showers and storms. Now, the likelihood of a repeat of severe weather is not likely, but it's not zero, as we're looking at this system. It's still very active to the west. So we've got several hours of active weather coming back in. There's still some showers and thunderstorms in Indianapolis and Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, for example. So that means while the immediate threat of tornadoes and significant severe weather is diminishing, that we are going to continue to monitor the evolving situation along with Madison all morning.
I do want to go back and take a look at kind of how conditions have changed. We started this morning with a widespread tornado watch, updating now, looking like we still have a few areas included with that, likely to change here shortly. Let's take a look at temperatures. They were starting off this morning in the 60s. It looks like we're finally going to see that front move through here very shortly. Temperatures off towards the northwest, areas like Kenton, Urbana starting to cool down, but still holding on to around 61 degrees as we look in Columbus. Now, dew points are something else important we want to pay attention to. They were pretty high this morning, sitting in the 50s for most. Again, starting to see some of that drier air sink into areas like Kenton and Urbana right now, dropping dew points by a couple of degrees. But right now, again, still holding on to 50s for dew points and 60s for those temperatures, which does give us enough potential, enough energy to see a couple more rumbles of thunder. But like Jerry said, I don't think we've got as much potential for those strong to severe storms as that front is now getting ready to pass. We'll see our winds shift from the south to the north, and this is going to drop our temperatures fast. And I mean fast. We're going to go from the 60s right now back down to around 40 degrees by lunchtime, and then getting even colder down to 32 by this afternoon. So storms still lingering for some spots. Watching those redeveloping storms there just off to the west. We'll be keeping an eye on those as we head through the next little bit. Within the next hour or so, we should know the extent of those storms. But again, right now, most spots are almost in the clear, if not already doing so much better. Again, Belle Fountain, Marysville, Delaware, Marion, even into Mount Vernon and London, looking much drier. A couple showers lingering for the southeastern portion of the metro. Spots like Newark, Lancaster, Circleville, even into Washington Courthouse and Chillicothe, still seeing heavy rain. And I want to note, within the system, we may only have one severe thunderstorm warning in effect at the moment, which it looks like they just trimmed down a little bit. Still continuing for portions of Morgan, Perry, and Muskingum County for a little bit longer, 6:45. So another 7 or 8 minutes here. We're going to be keeping an eye on that. But the system as a whole, diving south, no other warnings aside from that, but still, please stay inside, delay heading out this morning if you can, because this is still a lot of rain. One of the concerns with this system that we've been talking about is we don't have a lot of vegetation out and about right now. Everything is dry, everything is still dead. And one thing in the summer that helps us out when we have systems like this is all of that lush green vegetation takes in that water as it comes down and helps prevent flooding. We don't have that to save us right now. So a lot of that water is just going to run off, and that's where we're having some issues with flooding on roadways, in addition to 60-mile-per-hour winds. And we're still seeing some of these little white patches here. That's going to be areas of hail. We've already seen indications of an inch of hail, hail or larger for some spots.
And Madison, we've been watching and we've been talking about, if you've been with us for the past 30 or 60 minutes, that the opportunity for this line of thunderstorms is kind of ebbing and flowing. And it's not atypical, especially for overnight or nocturnal thunderstorms that form in a line to do just that. What we've been most concerned about, and now we're not as concerned about, is some of the structure in the lines which has been curling or curving. What we're looking at now, especially from areas from Zanesville south and west toward New Lexington, you see those pockets indicated by white. That's an indication of possible hail, up to or greater than 1 inch in size. And the leading edge of this line is not showing that same structure or character that it did just about 30 or 40 minutes ago. It does not mean that our counties and communities and friends in Perry County, southeastern Fairfield County, or soon to be down toward Hocking County, down 33, are out of the woods. You're going to have a rough morning the next 30 to 45 minutes. But at this time, and I do think it's going to extend through daybreak this morning, the threat for tornadoes in that area is greatly diminished. We're going to continue to watch and track this system, but to bring you up to speed, at this time, there are no active tornado warnings in the 10 TV viewing area in central Ohio. We're still tracking active weather to the east and this line across the south as it moves away. Once we get through 7 to 8 o'clock, we are not out of the woods. I do think the threat for severe weather is greatly diminished, but we're still going to be dealing with showers and thunderstorms. And as Madison mentioned, once that front passes by, you're going to get whiplash from the temperature drop, going from the 60s this morning down to the 30s and 20s with wind chills in the teens by tomorrow night. So this system means business. We're tracking the front end of the system right now. We'll walk you through the rest of the morning and the rest of the day in your full Doppler forecast coming up.
Well, an amazing job by our Doppler 10 team to getting us up to speed throughout this. We're going to go live outside right now, where we are westbound on I-70 right now. Let's check in with 10 TV's Kiara Lake.
Yeah, I'm currently driving, we've been driving around this area earlier when we were over by Olentangy near Bethel, just completely a downpour. We couldn't even drive around. We had to pull over just for our safety, and now we're on I-70 West headed to what we've heard is some damage going on. Now this has been reported, as we've been talking about, all morning. So right now we're just going to where we think that situation is, over in Madison County. So that's the direction that we're going in right now. No rain here. You can tell that the roads are still a little wet, probably a little slick in some spots, but the traffic is moving pretty well for what I can say. We do have our windshield wipers on, as you can see, but that's just because there's a little bit of a sprinkle. But as for roads on both sides, everything's moving pretty great here on I-70 West. But like I said, we're headed to Madison County right now. We'll see what the damage is or what's going on, and we'll be able to check in with you once we get there.
All right, Kiara Lake, thank you so much much. Be safe out there. We can tell you that we have more than 24, approaching 36 schools right now issuing school delays. Obviously, as a storm and the tornado situation moves away from us, these schools are dealing with the fact that some families were waiting out in the basement. They need that extra time to get ready. So adding to the list of 2-hour delays now, Whitehall City Schools. Westerville is also on there, but you can see the full list scrolling at the bottom of your screen.
And that Westerville is a 1-hour delay.
1 hour,
we do
yes.
want to point that
Thank you.
out since
Thank
it's
you.
a little bit different the other.
Yeah.
We do want to give you an update on the roads at 642. Here is Amy Steigerwald.
Yeah, good morning. Right now, we are still watching a couple of spots. We're seeing more and more pop up by the minute that are closing down because of debris on the roadways, because of flooding. This first one we've been telling you about, US 40 between 56 and 38. You can see that flagged in that purple right here, closed in both directions because of debris on the roadways. This is on the far west side where we kind of saw things hit first. Also, want to pull up our cameras for you. Take a look in that upper left-hand camera. You can see crews have arrived on scene. This is the ramp from 161 westbound to I-270 south. There is flooding in that tunnel right now. Only you can see those right lanes just barely inching by as first responders block that other side off. We also want to draw your attention to that upper right-hand camera. You can't quite see it where this camera view is at. This is a little bit north of where this is, but ODOT has flagged some flooding on I-71 northbound, blocking some of the left lanes just beyond Dublin-Granville Road. So we don't have a camera actually there, but there are some issues. Again, that is flooding in those northbound lanes of I-71 as you're heading into the top of that 270 loop. So know that as you head out. Also still watching a number of different trouble spots. 23, we don't actually have a camera view right there, but all lanes are blocked on US 23 south, right at London Groveport Road. So if you're coming in from the south side this morning, maybe you take 23 from the Grove City area potentially. 23 is blocked right now in those southbound lanes. I wouldn't be shocked if it impacts northbound traffic as well, though, as they are clearing up a crash. So multiple trouble spots. If you can delay leaving by even 20 minutes, things might improve as more crews start to arrive on these scenes and do their best to clear them up. But again, especially those situations that we're watching like up here with that flooding, turn around, don't drown. That is the key that you want to remember at this point as we are seeing multiple trouble spots again because of different flooding issues, because of debris on the roadways. Of course, we are going to continue to keep an eye on this. We're going to let you know if any other spots do pop up. I'm going to toss things now back over to Madison Reich with that forecast.
Yeah, conditions definitely beginning to improve. We're looking better, I'd say, overall, and especially seeing those crews work as fast as they can to get this taken care of. We're going to start off with an updated look at your watches and warnings here. Still watching a couple thunderstorm warnings. Actually, just saw that one trimmed back here for areas in Zanesville. So this does continue for just a little bit longer. We're going to see this until 7:15 a.m. This is remember, we don't have any more tornado warnings in effect, just this single thunderstorm warning left for most spots. So let's take a closer look at the system as a whole. Most areas still dealing with some heavy rain right now that we're looking at. Cambridge, Zanesville, McConnellsville, even now moving south into areas like Nelsonville. Lancaster, you finally cleared at least the worst of it. That strong line now down just to your south. Isolated areas of hail still being picked up here. So within this line, I'm still recommending take shelter. This is a strong storm. We are seeing strong winds. Gusts of 60 miles per hour have already been reported within this line through the morning. Again, we've got the hail, we've got the heavy rain, we've got flooding issues. This is not anything to mess around with. And like Amy just said, if you can delay leaving this morning, even if it is just by 10 to 20 minutes, please do so. Do yourself a favor and do everyone else on the roadways a favor as well. The fewer cars we can have out there as these storms are coming through, the better. We, of course, are seeing improvements. Overall, the storm has started to lengthen, stretch, start to weaken as it does, still holding on to strength right within the line, but look behind it. Just a lot of rain for areas like Circleville right now and starting to dry out much more as we head to the north. In fact, we are watching a chance for a couple more showers. They've been beginning to pop up over the past 30-40 minutes, I'd say, watching those showers and storms develop just here off towards the west. One thing to notice with these, they're not very organized. We're not seeing that line. That was one of the biggest concerns with the storms this morning, was it was an organized line, and we started to see that bowing, that stretching, where we push it out and you get that curving and that squiggliness. You start to see changes in wind direction really quickly, which gave us our potential for tornadoes. Of course, definitely saw some impacts from that. These storms, however, much more isolated, not quite as organized or quite as strong, looking like a lot of them, in fact, are strengthening and then starting to lose strength as they move into the region. So that's good news as well. Still potential for a little bit of rain, not nearly as much lightning on these. In fact, looking like we're seeing quite a bit of it down to the south. We've got more lightning definitely within the storm that we're still watching here within our region. So we're not completely out of the woods yet, but it does look like the bulk of the severe threat is now long gone. Our tornado threat is dropping dramatically. We still do have that tornado watch across the area for a little bit longer, continuing until, I believe, 10 a.m., correct, Jerry?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yep, till
10 a.m. And still watching that for a couple more hours. And we're still watching that severe thunderstorm warning right now. But Jerry, do we have anything new going on with that warning? I know the system's been diving south, holding on to a little bit of strength, but at least it looks like it's starting to lose that.
It is, and I think the opportunity, as you mentioned, for that line to the south still to produce some damaging winds and some hail and some exceptionally heavy rain. Flooding is not out of the question, although we haven't talked much about this. The focus has been on the tornadic threat. Right now, we're still watching that line, and the evolution of that, as I mentioned, has really been focusing on the northern part of that. That's why there's that severe thunderstorm warning east of Zanesville over toward Morgan County and south of Cambridge. To the west of that, we're going to see a nice needed break. So as we mentioned earlier, if you have damage, if you were disrupted this morning by the severe weather going through, until it's clearly light outside, do not go outside. Do not take pictures. We don't want to see or hear about hearing is one thing. We want to see pictures or videos of your situation. It's still dangerous. Power lines could be down. There could be debris on the ground, and you could be putting yourself in harm's way even well after the storm has passed by. So we will certainly welcome your content later on this morning, but until it's safe to do so, please stay inside. So we're just letting you know, kind of a word of caution right there. Quick wrap from this side of the storm is that the easternmost part of that is still producing that severe thunderstorm warning with some hail and high winds. That line of storms down through Logan County back toward Chillicothe, that's still means business with some gusty winds, some hail and some rain and lightning. And further off to the west, we're tracking some more scattered showers with a little bit of lightning, but there's not near the organization with these particular cells, and therefore the concern for Madison and I is not zero, but it's not near what it was just a couple hours ago. So we're going to toss it back to the anchors for an update. I know there's been a lot of schools, a lot going on this morning.
Sure.
Amy Steigerwald has been doing a great job taking care of some of the roads for us, but a lot of the school delays and closings just kind of popped up. I think it's a great call by the school administrators in doing so to keep everybody in their district safe.
Absolutely.
As they always say, Jerry, safety first. Thanks so much for coming in as well and keeping all of us safe too.
Now let's go back to Madison County. That's where the most severe part of the storm entered central Ohio. Joining us now on the phone is Sheriff John Swaney. Sheriff Swaney, thanks for being with us. We know that was one of the hardest hit areas early this morning. What are your deputies telling us right now?
Yes, about shortly after 5 this morning, we actually had a Madison County Sheriff's deputy almost involved in the touchdown of a tornado. Our Sheriff's 911 Center started to receive multiple calls, telephone lines down, and damage in the area of Summerford, which is a village to the west side of the county. Our Madison County Airport took a major impact. We've received about 3 or 4 structures with damage. They initially were reported with people inside. We've been able to check all those residents, and no injuries have been reported at this time. The sheriff's deputies, the highway patrol, and ODOT crews are now currently out trying to assess the situation. We have U.S. Route 40 closed from 56 over to 38 until we can assess things and make sure it's safe for people to come through.
Now, Sheriff, just briefly going back to something you just mentioned, we know there was
Sheriff John Swaney, thanks for taking some time and talking with us this morning.
Thank you. We'll keep you updated as things develop.
We appreciate that.
We talk about an eyewitness account, though, on why these warning systems are so critical, the tornado sirens, because in the overnight hours, people are sleeping. If you're on the road, you can't see what's coming.
It is
and
dark.
You can't see it. And so for that deputy to be safe is just, thank goodness.
That's really 10 TV news reporter Kiara Lake is headed out that way. I think she just is in Madison County and she joins us. What are you seeing, Kiara?
We got to Madison County not too long ago. Right now we're on State Road 40, and as you can see, traffic is moving here. Again, we're just starting to get into daylight, letting us see just a little bit more. As you can see, roads still glistening in the area, but as far as we know, as far as we can see on the road, things are moving here. I haven't passed any first responders, anyone on any scenes that I can see. The roads have been pretty clear driving here. We're headed into London, like I just said. So if we see anything, we will be sure to keep you updated. But right now, everything is pretty clear in our area. So we'll toss it to Amy to get a broader look at what's going on those streets. Reporting live here in Madison County, Kiara Lake, 10 TV News.
Yeah, we do have a couple of spots that we're confirming where there is some debris, there is some flooding that the Ohio Department of Transportation has flagged and has shut down right now. So you heard that sheriff talk about this just a couple of minutes ago. US 40 between 38 and between 56, all of those lanes shut down as they work to clear up some debris on the roadways over there. Also, swinging things a little bit closer to the Columbus Metro right now, we do have a crash on 23 southbound right at London Groveport Road. All of those southbound lanes you can see shut down. Those shutdowns flagging past that I can even show you on your TV right now. It appears to be impacting those northbound lanes as well. So 23 southbound this morning shut down. Also, we want to flag over here, very close by State Route 104, just beyond Durrett Road. Debris, utilities, utility lines are down right now on the roadways. All directions are shut down. Again, that is on State Route 104, just beyond Durrett Road. So if you're coming in, going to the south side this morning, it is kind of a mess, unfortunately. Again, like I've been saying, if you can delay your commute even by 15 minutes, things might improve. Also, still watching some flooding up here over on the northeast side. That upper right-hand camera is that tunnel view out in the Westerville area this morning. That is on I-270 right at 161. That is the ramp from 161 westbound to I-270 southbound. There is flooding in that tunnel. We watched this probably about a half hour ago really escalate. Thankfully, since we last spoke, first responders have been able to arrive on scene, shut down that left portion of that tunnel. You can see that right portion is safely moving through, but if you use this area, just anticipate that traffic will be slow moving through that area this morning. Also still watching the potential for some trouble spots on I-71. That bottom right-hand camera is the view at Cook Road. We were watching some northbound lanes blocked in near the Dublin-Granville Road area because of flooding. Thankfully, it appears that that wasn't too much of a problem. Some of those warnings have been lifted, so they might have been able to clear those out very quickly. Good news for I-71 drivers. But again, we are watching many trouble spots this morning. We'll continue to flag things and let you know when any issues do clear up. But for now, I'm going to send things back to you guys at the desk.
All right, Amy, thank you. We do want to remind you about the school delays that have been called because of the weather conditions and the aftermath. They're scrolling at the bottom of your screen. We have some of those up on your screen for you now. We want to point out these are all 2-hour delays. Westerville does have a 1-hour delay.
Part of the aftermath, too, is we are left with power outages. Here's the latest numbers right now from AP Ohio and First Energy. You can see 6,089 First Energy customers and just over 7,200 AAP Ohio customers without power. So just about 13,000, just over that mark right now. Well, let's get you back out with the forecasts. Here's Dr. 10 meteorologist Madison Reich.
Yeah, we're going to be watching this storm now. We've been keeping a close eye on the front that's behind it. This is what's really been pushing it through at such a fast speed. The front is now getting close to central Ohio, and behind it, we're actually seeing that little bit of extra development of some storms. Right now, not seeing too much activity with these, aside from some pockets of moderate to heavy rainfall. We've also been watching a little bit of lightning associated with these as well. I'll pull this up for you just to give you an idea of kind of the intensity of these storms. Not nearly as bad as what we've already seen. So you can see a little bit more down near Cincinnati, the stuff near Dayton, a lot lighter, a lot less, a lot weaker than what we've been dealing with. I want to take you back to this part of the storm as well, and I'll toss things over to Jerry, Chief Meteorologist Jerry March, to give you an updated look at this part of the system.
Thanks, Madison. Doing a great job since the wee hours of the morning, tracking the severe weathers that raced through central Ohio, producing a lot of damage. In the light of day, I'm sure there's going to be more. Right now, we're still tracking the easternmost, that kind of area heading toward Caldwell, only severe thunderstorm warning. And then we're looking at the opportunity for still some gusty thunderstorms down to the south. So this is looking off toward the southeast at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. And we're looking at an opportunity again for improving conditions briefly as we get into the next half hour or so. So we're looking right now still very active weather, lightning, hail, and gusty winds. And this is looking at the opportunity again for conditions to go downhill. But at the moment, no tornadoes or severe weather along this line as it moves south. A little bit of a lull. Then we're still tracking some downpours and some gusty winds as we look off toward mid-morning. And after that, a huge drop in temperatures. If you're leaving the house today safely, I hope, take the winter coat. You're going to need it later on this afternoon because conditions are going to change dramatically as we go through the day. We'll be back with more news and weather at 7:25. Sorry, I saw that, and then by the time I look at the clock, it was already past. Thank you, though.